The saying goes that time heals all wounds, but sometimes that's just not the case. How's it going, guys? Music fan here. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well out there in the world today. Um, if you know what today is May 19th of 2018. So exactly 1 year ago today, we were given Linkin Park's sixth studio album. I think that's what it is, sixth studio album. And the last studio album to feature Chester Bennington on a Linkin Park record with lead vocals. The album is One More Light, was released this day, last year, 2017, the 19th of May. So this is the 1 year anniversary re-review of the record. I previously made another video similar to this. It went on for pretty long, and unfortunately it couldn't upload to YouTube, so I'm filming a much shorter one this time. So let's not kid around ourselves. Let's go get to this re-review. This is the last album to feature Chester Bennington on vocals, and at the time of the release, I had made another video this almost nearly this time last year, and it was talking about Linkin Park, this particular album, One More Light, in a very, which I used to have a very mixed reception towards. I used to think the record wasn't as good as their best records, which for me personally was A Thousand Suns and the Hunting Party, the last record. I thought that it was, while it was very different, much more different even by A Thousand Suns standards, it experimented a lot more heavily with EDM, with electronic music, pop music, hip-hop music, way more heavily into that than anything Linkin Park had done before. So that kind of hindered the record a little bit for me at that time. At the same time, I really didn't see too much difference in it because I had observed that Linkin Park, with like every consecutive record, had been changing up their sound and changing up their style. They never had any single record be consistently the same as the one following it, or even the one before it, since Minutes to Midnight, which ironically this week is 11 years since the release of that album. But given in light of what has happened, with just only 2 months or so later after this album release, lead vocalist Chester Bennington committed suicide on July 20th of 2017, exactly 2 months or so after the release of this record. No one saw it coming. I didn't see it coming. The band didn't see it coming. Nobody did. Nobody saw it coming except for Chester himself. That was one of the most emotional and most intensely sad days of my life thus far, and every single Linkin Park fan's life thus far. Obviously, with any album, with any artist or any band that passes on from this life to the next with their latest piece of music, you would imagine of what are the intricacies, it's almost kind of like you're doing detective work. You're trying to pick out pieces of the lyrics here and there, and the record takes a whole new feeling after the fact. And it's no different here with One More Light. I mean, songs like Nobody Can Save Me, songs like Battle Symphony, maybe even Sharp Edges, the last song off the record, talked about as if Chester Bennington was moving on from his personal demons and was more than willing to to fight on, to keep on going forward. But then you get other tracks on this record like Halfway Right, songs like Sorry for Now, songs like Heavy, featuring Kiara, the single, that really presented Chester in the most darkest and the most downtrodden of situations that he was in at that time, that informed the lyrical writing of those songs. So where I used to look at this record with very mixed feelings, even though I still thought it was an okay Linkin Park record, now I see this record entirely different for the most part. Now this record has taken a much darker turn after the fact, but this record has also risen in appeal and risen in stature for me. To be fair, it would have anyway, even regardless if Chester didn't pass on. It would have risen a bit more highly, just only the fact that music sometimes does that with me, or like I've grown accustomed to a piece of music, and then depending on how it makes me feel and how it resonates with me, it either raises in stature or it decreases in value for me. But for this record, it has increased in value, even though some moments on the record remain way too personal and way too emotional for me to listen to it all the way through, like the title track, for instance, but that's for later. So yeah, I mean, this record, really has taken a different turn for me, in every conceivable way imaginable. I mean, similar to what happened with Black Star and David Bowie. I mean, at the time that that album was released 2 days before he died, people would have thought that, oh, this is a great David Bowie album, but it's just another David Bowie album, a great David Bowie album. It wasn't until only after he passed on that it just suddenly took a 180 shift in meaning, and it just changed from just being another David Bowie record to just this really intense, emotional, and yet very cacophonic album that sounds as if David Bowie was speaking from beyond the grave or from beyond death to you, the listener. And while this album was not made with that frame at the time of its recording, because nobody saw that coming with Chester Bennington, after the fact, a lot of the lyrics here really took like a really 180 degree opposite. Now it's taken on a very intense meaning, much more deeper than before. The first track, Nobody Can Save Me, again, like this song, at the time when I initially reviewed it and I heard it, I would have thought that the lyrics, kind of based in this very happy sounding electronic music, I would have thought that it sounded like Giving Up, but with happier sounding music. But looking back on it now, it just sounds so vulnerable and so intense. The lyrics do speak of a moment in Chester's final years, or his last moments, where he is really truly struggling against something. He is truly struggling against his demons, and he's making a firm resolve to move on from those demons. And only he can stop it. There's only can do except for him to stop all this himself. So Nobody Can Save Me, like, that's a song that is now I really, really like. I really love this song. It's very achingly now, looking back after the fact, but now this song is just really amazing. Awesome. Good Goodbye, featuring Pusha T and Stormzy. Yet again, this this was another Linkin Park track that took aim at their critics and their detractors with this song. A lot more hip hop laden, a lot more, which is the thing about this record. At the time of release, it had very little to no angry hard rock songs. More or less, it heavily experimented with electronic EDM, pop music, very laden all over the record. So which really drove the ear of a lot of hardcore Linkin Park fans at that time. And this song is no different in this sense. The chorus line, "Say goodbye and hit the road, pack it up and leave it clear. You better have some place to go because you're not welcome around here." That that line can be seen as a bye bye hater kind of line, but given in light of Chester's passing now, it feels like Chester and his own demons saying, "You're not welcome in this life anymore, so farewell." It's a very dark turn indeed with the line, but the energy of the song and the music still remains the same, and it's intense and it's anthemic. And both Pusha T and Stormzy, whose music I've gotten to acquaint myself a little bit more since the release of this album, and he does a really good job on his verse with his part. This song is really anthemic, and it still remains a really good song, which I still love to this very day. What's the next song? I forget. Talking to Myself. One of the songs that has guitar in it a little bit, but again, the lyrics kind of spell out what Chester was going through at this time. The lyrics kind of spell out that he is within the throes of his own demons, of struggling against his own demons, and the other friend, or it could be his wife, Talinda Bennington, trying to tell him from the other side, "I'm trying every conceivable way to help you, but you're so enwrapped with your demons and trying to overcome them that my words fall on deaf ears. Therefore, I feel like I'm talking to myself. You're not the same person that I knew before, or you're a different person now." I don't have any details regarding that. I absolutely do not. But the lyrics to this song really convey like a Chester Bennington going through a really big rut, and lyrically it's very intense, even though musically it's a bit more keyboard laden and has a bit of a guitar thing going on there, and also acoustic as well, which is didn't see too much from Linkin Park with acoustic guitars, but there you go. This song is a song I still like to this day. Battle Symphony. I talked about this song before in my song review of Battle Symphony. Hold up. It's raining outside, so the light around me is getting dark, ironically. So yeah, this song, this wasn't a song I liked a lot when I initially reviewed it and when I initially talked about this song, even though now it's kind of grown in stature for me. I mean, again, this song almost paints a picture of Chester Bennington like moving on or making the life of like the affirmation that he was going to get up and move on with his life, and he was not going to let his demons take him down. He was not going to let the negativities of his life, impact his life, And you can see it all over the lyrics that this Battle Symphony will push him forward. And it's an anthemic track, it's a life-affirming song. Of course, it's taken a bit of a sobering meaning after Chester's death, but this song still remains a really good song, and I still love it to this day. Invisible. again, like everything else on this album, is taken kind of like a 180 turn, where this song was written about Mike Shinoda and an argument he had with his son, with his kid, now takes a much more different turn. You can also interpret the chorus as being more about, you know, I was not mad at Chester Bennington, my friend, but I'll pick you up when you fall, and I'll make sure that you're not forgotten in this world, in this life, now that you've gone away. And yeah, this song is emotional. This song is really, initially I had a mixed feeling towards, because it sounded very kind of, you know, Avicii, Philip Phillips-esque kind of thing. But nowadays, I look back on it, and it's such a deep song with very deep lyrical writing. And now, especially after the fact of Chester's passing, is taking a huge shift in tone, in nature. Heavy, featuring Kiara. I mean, I talked about this song in a review once last year, since I deleted it. But at the time, I didn't think too highly of this song. I kind of thought that it was an okay song. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible either. Nowadays, looking back, I keep on thinking that it's very indicative of what Chester was going through at that time. This intense fighting dialogue back and forth between him and himself, him and his demons, or it could be him and his wife, or him and one of his bandmates, or him and one of his friends. Just like everything is so heavy and so chaotic around him. He's trying to find solace in the chaos, but it's hard to. It's intense, and it's very hard to. Given also Kiara's singing and her contribution to this song. I had a mixed feeling of this song, but nowadays, because it's taken such a different light, minus the pun, it's a song I really like now. I really love this song now. Sorry for Now. Again, like Invisible was written about Mike Shinoda's kid, but now it can be now interpreted as Mike saying to Chester, you know, I'm sorry for not being there, but someday we'll all understand, and this understanding will bring everyone closure, especially to Chester. What I still find interesting about this song is that the roles between Chester and Mike were reversed, and Chester doing a rapped version or rap sung more than interesting and just very amazingly different. Even though now listening to Chester's vocal, now given in hindsight, is now very deeper sounding and very different. Halfway right. This song, initially I didn't take too much to this song. Like, I thought it was just samey sounding. Chester's passing is just taking a different, more darker. Could account for a moment Chester had where he was driving a car, but he had alcohol in the secret. That by this point Chester was fighting a lot with alcoholism in his life due to trying to cope with himself of an earlier incidents when he was suffering from sexual abuse. And intense thing to think about, but that's what happened with him. And this song recounted a moment where it's either he had seen this happening, or this was a moment he was in to this, possibly a car crash or an accident that injured a friend or something. And the line in the I scream at myself when there's nobody to fight. I don't lose, I don't win. If I'm wrong, then I'm halfway right. This is really indicative of the feeling of guilt, like you have no one else to blame but yourself. Um, yeah, I mean, this song has taken a different meaning with me, but it's a song that I now think very highly of. The title track, One More Light, already by this point, when the album was initially released, I had thought this was a very emotional song. I think it was even about someone in Chester's circle in the band's inner, and this song was written about that. But in light of what happened with Chester, I remember my school, and it was starting to get very emotional for me hearing all the songs back to back, consecutively in their order. But now, when it came to One More Light, the song, One More Light, the song, it like, and given it was so emotional and all sobby and misty eyed, and when I would hear it now, you know, I mean, there was like a it was with his laptop and stuff, but and I didn't want to look very awkward and cry in front of this guy, so I had to skip the track. You know, it really it's really emotional and just really deep enough already as it is. But when you put with the fact of Chester's on, and so I don't have time. So it's still a fantastic vocal, if only sobering for the fact of what happened to him later on. But that's the title song. That's one, and it was also intense to listen to in the Hollywood Bowl performance to Chester with the band and Mike Shinoda. Uh, and Sharp Edges, the last song off the record. I had thought this song was very kind of Philip sounding and a go lucky song. Song is even more sadder. Just it, it's gone from a perception of being just very joyful sounding for me. Sweet, given that this song sounds so happy and sounds so peppy and upbeat, and yet the bitterness is like the lyrical writing and song with Chester Bennington, the vocal on it. But you know, it, it's just like the rest of this record. It's gone a deviation from their sound to now almost lyrically a farewell letter, even though that was not the mind frame while making the actual record. Um, to everyone, like these are my experiences, these are the lessons I have learned, and these are for you to learn to apply to your own life. Um, the greater things in life for granted, the people never take the things for granted important to you. And again, this record would have risen in stature a little given how given what happened with Chester, and given how significant 1 year later is a 4 out of 5 for me. Yet, it definitely would not be on the below. It definitely would not be the worst Linkin Park record, but I'm not exactly sure if it's the top, among 5. Probably would be like that. That's something that I have to, you know. I don't know, you know, but me about this record a year later is that even more so now, more resonant, more, you know, even still to this day, people still don't like the record and the music, which is fine. You don't have to like the music, but like nobody saw Chester's death coming, but now, given in light of Chester, now even the overall sentiment of this record, even though this tribute was that look at Blink, Darren from System of a Down, Gavin Rossdale, um, amongst other people. I mean, it was a wide variety range of different musicians and artists, which also attests to arranging Linkin Park really is. Than anything else with Linkin Park, and it's a record that is now more intense for me nowadays. Maybe at some songs even more intense, but this is a record that really is Chester's not only farewell, but it's also Chester's take care of yourself kind of way. A way of like leaving behind a legacy that my kids and their kids and their kids' kids will take huge amount of stock of the legacy that Chester has left behind and what a legacy he has left behind, you know. So yeah, this record, I can't say for sure if this is their best album, but I can certainly say that this record is still a powerful record, you know. Lyrically, it's their most vulnerable in a good way. They're most naked and they're most in your face, not with rage and anger, but in your face in terms of emotion and intimacy, and you know, they're most human. You know, there's no layering of electronic or any kind of heavy rock instrumentation or anything. It's just Linkin Park being Linkin Park and this Chester being Chester in a time where Chester really gave it his all, gave it his best, and gave it his shot, but through no fault of his own, the stigma of mental illness, you know, overcame, you know. But it only goes to show through this record that Chester truly was a person, a unique individual of heart and character, and you know, as well as being one of the greatest vocalists, one of the greatest singers of the last 15, 16 years, 17 years. You know. So this album, One More Light, I am preserving in my record collection till the day I die, till the day I pass away. This album, even though I didn't listen to any of the songs on for the sole reason to keep a piece of in my heart, as well as his heart. So Chester now forever lives on in the music and the lyrics on CD and in the internet, and he would never be forgotten, ever. Anyway, sorry this was a long review. This was a little bit shorter than my other one. So sorry if this is a lot. I was trying to make a short one, but this is still long. Let me know your thoughts. Where were you on the one on with One More Light? Do you love this? Has this album taken extra resonance with you, or no? Do you still hate this record, but has this record changed in meaning for you? And if I could say it one more time, rest in peace, Chester Bennington. You will forever be missed, and you will always be loved and never forgotten, ever. And ironically enough, the bright light in the background of me, you know, is very ironic. the 1 year anniversary. If that light is Chester being right.